I'm the only Israeli Jew who lives, an Israeli Jewish journalist who covers the occupied territory and occupation from inside. Yes, and you know, I have several ready-made answers to the question, what brought me to do what I'm doing. One kind of serious answer is that as a journalist, if I were asked to cover Paris, France, I would go and live in Paris and not in Berlin. So since I was asked to cover the Palestinian society, I cannot live in Jerusalem. I mean, in Tel Aviv, I should live among Palestinians. So this is one ready-made answer. There is another one, is that I'm, first I lived in Gaza for 3 years. And there is, I always say that I'm an East European Jew. And East European Jews lived in what we called shtetls, these little towns, little townships where everybody knows everybody and everybody gossips and everybody helps each other. And I said, I found in Gaza my shtetl. So this is another ready-made answer. But to be less evasive, I would say that I've had, before I became a journalist, I was an activist. I was left-wing, of course, activist. My parents were, so it was not for me, it was not a disruption of normal life. On the contrary, it was part of my life. And I always felt the urge to feel occupation from the inside. People ask me if I'm not afraid, or how come I don't get killed or haven't gotten killed already. I said, well, 20 years is also kind of statistics. Because people say, oh, something can happen to you any moment. Yes, but for 20 years, nothing happened. But yes, sometimes I'm afraid, and sometimes there was danger. For example, when Israeli tanks bomb, or Israeli airplanes bomb in an area where I was, that was very frightening. There were some, I wouldn't say narrow escapes, because I did not run into fire. But when an Israeli-launched missile fell just 10 meters away from the house where I was, it was kind of frightening. But it was not personal. I mean, I didn't take it personally. I was afraid just everybody else around me, or in a way, yes, I mean, I guess sometimes I become autistic. If people want to ask how, sometimes soldiers, very heavily armed, ask me how come I'm not afraid. And I say, yes, I'm afraid of the tanks. No, that's not what I mean, the soldiers say. I say, but that's what I mean. Because I faced a few awkward situations with Palestinians, but I never felt that my life was threatened. Sometimes there was anger that was at the Israeli army, that was directed at me because it was convenient, and I never hide that I'm an Israeli Jew. But it was not something I could not handle. But the 3 times that I really had danger, my life was in danger, was because of settlers, Israeli settlers. Twice, Israeli settlers shot at, not just at me, I was with a group of Palestinians, and they shot at us. They didn't know who I was, luckily, but still it was dangerous. And once I was almost lynched by settlers who heard me complaining to Israeli policemen that they did not intervene in stopping settlers from harassing Palestinians. So the 3 most dangerous situations were in the company of settlers, not Palestinians. So this is my answer about danger and fear and life under danger. The effect of the Arab Spring on the Israeli-Palestinian issue, or mostly on Palestinian internal affairs, is that youngsters have become much more audacious and daring vis-à-vis their own leadership. One of the early demands immediately after the Arab Spring was towards both Hamas and PLO leaderships, asking them to end the schism, the split between the two, and to reunite as a leadership in order to better stand vis-à-vis Israeli occupation. Now there are youngsters who demand a halt to negotiations with Israel because the negotiations have led to nothing and they are only strengthening Israeli occupation. And there is, in the air, there is some optimism in spite of the setbacks that the Arab Spring knows, of course, but there is some optimism or the realization that things are not stagnating, that there are changes and movements that are not anymore to the benefit of Israel, and that the Arabs have shown that they do not automatically, or that the Arab peoples have demands from their leaderships, and that those leaderships cannot be always an obedient recipient of American or Western orders. So that's the big change. The settlement construction is indeed going on. It hasn't stopped. It doesn't stop. Actually, the absurd is that with the so-called peace process of the past 20 years, the settlement activity has only grown, and the number of settlers has almost doubled, both in the West Bank and in the area that became Jerusalem. But these are also settlements. And indeed, this is the main, this has turned the solution, or the two-state solution, almost impossible. If there is no international pressure on Israel, not only to stop, but to withdraw from all these settlements, to dismantle those settlements, there is no chance for a real two-state solution, that's for sure. The Israelis, there is very little opposition to the settlement activity because the majority of Israelis benefit from the occupation and benefit from the settlement activity. And this is the sad fact. I would advise, Americans who care. The question what Americans can do, of course, begins with the assumption that America somehow has an influence on Israel. And this is the right impression so far. It might not be for ever. If America does want to still keep, not to be chased out of the Middle East eventually, it has to be an honest broker. And it has not been. It has supported Israel and Israeli expansionism completely. I would say it's because it relies on, I don't think it's because there are special, special love lost between us, but because Israel probably has a very, not probably, but for sure, gives some very important services to the United States and to its role in the Middle East. But we see, and we come back now to the Arab Spring, these things are fluid and these things change all the time. Now, if Americans care for the Israeli Jewish community, they should know that this Israeli Jewish community cannot forever rely on its military supremacy. This is the only thing. So if they really do care, they should encourage Israel, or in a way force Israel, to depend on other things, to things other than military supremacy, and to reach out for the region, not as crusaders, not as a colonial entity, not as an outpost, a Western outpost, but to be neighbors, and to be decent neighbors and cooperative neighbors. This is what Israel has completely neglected in doing, if not the opposite, for the past 63 years. And Palestinians could have been an amazing bridge to this world. to the Middle Eastern world. It's not just about America, it's about the safety of the entire world, because we have such a volatile situation in our region that it can inflame almost a total war, and it's awful to say that. I don't believe in governments. I believe in that peoples can have common sense, and the people in America, just as in other places, should regain this common sense that of how wars are dangerous and against the interests of the peoples, not against the interests of big capital, but against the interests of people. But you know, there are so many things that Americans should do for themselves too. It is connected at the end, but maybe the Occupy Wall Street movement could turn into Unoccupy Palestine movement. I don't know, or it is connected, and there is the American political life also has to change a lot before we will see this positive result that I was now dreaming about in my last response.
Okay.